Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. The next goal wins. Right away, before I forget, follow us on the Instagram, on the TikTok, on YouTube, obviously, Spotify. So the TikTok and the Instagram are at the NGW podcast. YouTube is hosted here on the Coach Javi channel. We are also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you want to listen to it on your commute to work. Joining me, I have the usual guests. I don't know if you guys you guys aren't guests, you guys are hosts. We don't have guests yet, but we will have guests.
I'm just here.
Guests are coming soon.
Georgie, give yourself an introduce yourself, Georgie.
I'm me.
And you have to talk louder because every single time I do this podcast, I have to raise your voice in post. Don't scream, but
earlier you told me I'm very loud, and now you're telling me
no, because then you start loud and then you go like down, and then it's like you're half asleep by the time you finish your point.
Wait,
so sort it out.
This is what I mean. You guys bore me to death, and I just can't handle it.
Georgie's back. The only reason we have Georgie on the channel is because he gives us controversial takes that we can use for views, so we can grow the podcast. And the statistics, man. Joe D. How are the statistics this week, Joe?
Statistics are great. The numbers keep increasing. Fans keep commenting. We have so many things going for us. It's great.
All of Joe's prisoners that he forces to comment on the YouTube channel are keeping us alive so far. As you can see, by the way, we are in a different location. We're not in the regular studio. We purchased a warehouse, 50,000 square feet, $10 million, and we are in one of the offices.
We've made it,
ladies and gentlemen.
Finally.
Thank you to all of you who have given us views and revenue. No, we're actually at Joe's house. We can't afford a warehouse yet. Joe's thinking about it. He just needs to find the funds. Is that right, Joe?
Yeah.
Because the statistics are trending in that direction.
Georgie's been helping me. We have some Bitcoin mining computers currently trying to find us a Bitcoin or two.
We're at Joe's house.
The warehouse we need.
So, trying out a different set. Obviously, we can do some different things here and just have a little bit of a different look than the usual studio that you see on every episode. So, and Joe didn't want to drive all the way to my house this time, so I brought all the equipment over here.
I think we can also agree that these chairs are way more comfortable.
I agree with that. I've been saying we should get a couch, but Georgie doesn't want to. Georgie doesn't want to pick up the couch. That's cool, Georgie.
Guys, he's
got a pickup truck.
He mentioned he wanted to get a couch. The lady never replied to him if we were able to.
We could have just shown up at her house and picked it up.
That's creepy status for sure.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, let's actually get into the podcast. So I've tried to be a little bit better at the organization process. Joe has suggested using segments to keep the viewers engaged and interested, and also knowing what's going to be coming back. We can switch up the segments, but I got a couple. So first of all, the pre-cap. Kind of sounds a little funky, but we can find a different name. Basically, a summary of what we are going to talk about. So it's like a recap, but it's pre-recap. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. There's got to be an actual
like
word
an introduction?
Like an introduction, kind of. Well, not an introduction, because this is like a summary of what we'll be talking about. All right, so in this summary, we'll talk a little bit about the United States men's national team playing against Trinidad and Tobago for those two legs. Mexico versus Honduras. So if you watch the game, what a game that was. France recording, France's record over Gibraltar, 14-0. England tying North Macedonia 1-1. Isn't that where you're from, Georgie? North Macedonia?
Nope.
But Georgie's from Bulgaria. How far is North Macedonia from you?
Oh, we're very close.
Yeah,
I figured. We speak, I don't want to say the same language, but it's very, very similar.
I figured. All right. Then we got, there was one other, Brazil versus Argentina. We'll touch on that a little bit. Georgie's favorite segment, this next segment, after all of this stuff, is conspiracy theories.
I thought you were going to say the Darwin Nunez segment.
Yeah. So I guess this is both your segments. You both love conspiracy theory.
I do love a conspiracy theory.
Mine are not conspiracy, they're just facts.
That's why we call them conspiracy theories.
Said
because they come out of Georgie's mouth. So we have a couple conspiracy theories. We have a couple laws of the game, which I don't want to show you guys yet. Those I don't look at the iPad. Laws of the game, which are tricky laws of the game, and we'll see if you guys can figure it out. We did it on the last podcast, and see if the viewers can figure it out as well. And then finish it with a little fun fact of the day. Fun fact. I should have told you guys to come up with a fun fact.
Should we add anything for Thanksgiving?
Oh yes, you can go ahead. What are your thoughts?
For being like what we're thankful for?
I'm just thankful.
Yeah. Or what we're cooking. We could do both. I don't know if you can.
George is not cooking. I'm not
He's
cooking.
not cooking at all. I tell you that much.
Are you cooking, Joe?
Yeah. Every year, baby.
All right.
I enjoy cooking.
Didn't know that.
I like
Yeah.
washing.
There's a fun
dishes.
fact for you. You like
Joe
washing
loves cooking.
dishes?
Yeah,
You
it's
can
relaxing.
come over and okay.
It's relaxing.
So
Yeah, that's I can see that.
if you guys have
Simple
any
task,
ideas
easy.
for any segments, let us know. But figure that's where we can start today. We'll change it as we
We're
go along.
washing dishes, or
The washing dishes is the one to be.
we have plenty of dishes.
We can put that in the conspiracy theories section. All right. So let's start with the USA's win over Trinidad and Tobago.
Joe, did you watch that game?
Joe's got the hat.
I did.
Let Joe speak.
People actually on TikTok, I think it was, said that that's a very nice hat. And where you got it from?
Honestly, I can't find. I tried to go find another one because my dog nibbled on this one. We have a new puppy, and I tried to find it. I couldn't. I do have a similar 2 hats that I ordered, but I'll get the link and I'll send it to Javi and he can put it in the description.
I don't think we should be pushing any apparel that is not Champion Grind.
Ooh,
And
good
somehow
point. So never
I
mind.
am the only one wearing Champion Grind.
Well, this is Champion Grind. I just purposefully etched off the name because Georgie isn't paying
This
me.
is coming out soon.
How are we supposed to grow Champion Grind if I'm the only one pushing it? The owner wears, that's your competition probably. This guy comes on here wearing Gymshark and Alphalete.
Never. I don't have Gymshark.
Anyway.
I would like some Champions Grind gear. Back to your original question of the United States, what we did in the first leg almost guaranteed the second leg, and we still somehow made it closer than needed between the Dest red card, between, I don't know what Matt Turner was doing. He looked lost out there, which has me concerned, especially since he's been dropped by Forrest. So if anything, the second leg just made me even more nervous of where we are headed.
As soon as he got the red card, did you think there is a potential scenario of the United States getting knocked out?
No, just because we would have had to have made 3 or 4 other really, really, really bad mistakes. Because even on their goals, I believe Turner should have saved both. For sure, the second one where he pushed it into the upper corner. But even the first on a near post shot like that, I think of a lot of goalies just stand there and take that off the chest, or they can get their hand up. But he started to go down and then couldn't get back up for it. No, I don't think that. I did not think that we were going to blow it, but it did make me nervous. Of wow, we can make easy games really, 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 really hard.
What are your thoughts on the red card? Because I saw it, and it was a bit. He was going through a moment. Let's just say he was going through a moment. What are your thoughts?
I think we all watched a grown adult break down for a small period of time in front of tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds.
It almost makes you think that there was something else going on that was bothering him.
Yeah.
Because he was arguing that the ball didn't go out of play, which it didn't. And when you look at the replay, it looked like the ball stayed in. But the referee called it. But either way, you don't throw a ginormous fit because the ref got one call wrong.
Yeah.
He kept covering his mouth the whole entire time.
He was saying something to the referee, right?
So I wonder, I don't know. I mean, is there something more behind it? I don't know. I have no idea. But it does remind me. Actually, this is not as bad. But you guys remember Pepe, like 10 years ago, started kicking the guy on the ground for Real Madrid?
Yeah, vaguely now that you say that.
He one of those moments where you just completely lose your cool.
Yeah.
And go off like
the part that surprised me about it, though, is the fact that he's played for Barcelona. So he's played in environments where the pressure is massive.
Mm-hmm.
And yet somehow, for whatever reason, he just loses. I mean, his teammates were yelling at him, trying to calm him down. But at one point, they weren't even trying to calm him down. They were just trying to get him off the field as quickly as possible.
Part of me thinks, though, that's like what his problem is. Because to your point, he has played for Barcelona. He's been touted as supposed to be amazing. It was between him choosing the United States or the Netherlands in terms of what country he's going to play for. Plays for AC Milan now, I believe, right?
Yes, I have no idea.
I think so.
Yes.
But it's one of those things where maybe this is like the truth is finally coming out, because if technically and athletically, he's really good. Yeah. But he always seems to underperform. That if he does have those type of emotional struggles or personality struggles. Part of the reason why Xavi didn't want him at Barcelona. Because that's something, to me, Xavi wouldn't be open to. Because technically, I feel like Xavi would want him on the team. Because what he can offer offensively.
I don't know, but he threw a ginormous fit.
He did.
Reminds me of Georgie during that one training session.
Pretty similar. No,
punted the ball into the stands.
No, but the thing is, it wasn't like he was arguing with another player and they were kicking each other and then he just started throwing a fit. He threw a fit because the referee got a simple call wrong that does not affect the game in any way whatsoever. It's not even like it led to a goal and so they were fuming at the fact that it led to a goal or anything. It was literally a play that doesn't really affect anything.
But he pointed to something earlier.
And I don't know, but it got worse as it went on. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like he was starting to calm down. He started upset and then he just kept getting worse and worse. And nobody was pushing him to get to that point. He was pushing himself.
I saw a lot of people on Twitter talk about how much does this fall on Greg?
I don't think that has it. Well, you mean like the consequences of what's going to happen? What is he going to do about it? Or the fact that he's somehow caused that?
It's not really about him causing it. It's more of, is he losing the locker room along with the performances of the past 2 games?
It's a bad look for sure on the United States. I mean, he's going to have to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do? I mean, so somebody probably my favorite player of all time, United States wise, Stuart Holden, came out on Twitter and said he probably should never play for the United States again. Is that?
No, I don't believe in that.
I think that's a little overkill. But
so what is the right?
In my opinion, if I was Greg Berhalter, I would have him make an apology letter or make an apology to the team in the locker room during a dinner or whatever, and then tell the media that we've dealt with it internally. And obviously there's got to be some sort of a consequence, whether it's he gets benched the next game or he gets dropped for the next game or whatever. I don't think it needs to be made into a big deal because at the same time, you also don't know. That to me, it seems like there was something else going on top of that. So I don't know if there was something in his personal life or what it was that caused him to act that way because I really don't think it was just the refereeing mistake. Yeah. But I do think it's something that he's got to protect the player as well. But at the same time, he's got to let people know that that's not okay. So in my opinion, he can't just let it go and he can't just have a conversation with him. He's got to have him talk to the team and say, I let you guys down. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. And then just tell the media that they've dealt with it internally. Boom.
He did. I think he did post on X or Twitter and he apologized there. But to your point, Javi, I think Berhalter has to sit down with them and figure out, number one, what happened, man? Like, how did you get to that point? But I also think there has to be some level of him working his way back into the team, even after the suspension and things like that, to prove that regardless of who you are, you can't act that way. Some of the problem, though, is I don't know if Berhalter set that precedent or expectation with the group yet, you know?
So, the United States gets a pass into the semifinals of the Nations League. Is it Nations League, Nations Cup? What is the official name
Nations
of it?
League, I think.
Nations League. CONCACAF. Yeah. CONCACAF Nations League. And Mexico, Honduras. Did Georgie watch the last bit of it just because he was trying to bet on it? Because the betting odds were good.
It was pretty insane. But, I mean, I messaged in the group chat as soon as they scored just because, like I said, I was getting ready to go to bed. And I knew the score was 1-0 from halftime. So I'm on SofaScore, and it's like 98th minute. And it says, like, there's 9 minutes of stoppage time. So I'm looking at 1-0, and I'm like, Mexico's going to score. Mexico's going to score. So I stay on SofaScore for like another minute or two, just straight up staring at it. And then they end up scoring, and obviously they went to extra time. Then I watched because I was trying to bet on it.
Yeah, so the game, so Mexico was down 2-0. They needed to win 2-0 to send it into overtime, 3-0 to win outright. But if Honduras gets the away goal, Mexico would have had to score 4 goals in order to win. So Mexico scores the goal in the first half, I believe. Was it the first half?
Yeah, stoppage time. Stoppage time.
Yeah, right at the end of the first half. And then they struggled to score until, I think it was like, we could look at it at football, but it's probably the 110th minute that they scored when there was, or 111th minute that they scored when there was
100th minute.
Sorry, 100th minute, right. 10 minutes after the 90. But they had added 9 minutes of stoppage time, which, to be honest, I was trying to be as unbiased as I could when I was thinking about whether the refereeing was good. I thought the refereeing was fantastic. Not just because I'm a Mexico fan. But
interesting.
There was a lot of calls that they gave to Honduras because Mexico was trying to get the ball back. And so every time Honduras tried to get on the counterattack, Mexico would foul, and he gave him the right calls. There was actually a lot of calls that he did not give to Mexico because the Mexico players were flopping, trying to get free kicks outside of the box. So there's a lot of times where Honduras won the ball cleanly, and the Mexican players like flopped, and the referee was like, no, get up. So there was a lot of those. There was time wasting from the very first minute. I think the first half had maybe 6 or 7 minutes of stoppage time. Yeah. Second half, they added 9 minutes. In those 9 minutes, the referee went down, or sorry, the goalkeeper went down 2 more times, plus a couple of other players with hamstrings and cramps and stuff. And so he added 2 more minutes at the end of the 9 minutes to make it 11 minutes total. And Mexico did not score until the very last minute. Edson Alvarez scored the goal. And so Honduras is naturally fuming at the referee. In the post-match press conference, the coach is saying that he was basically only at the press conference out of respect to the reporters, because if it was up to him, he wouldn't be there because of how bad the refereeing was and the time and all of that. But to be fair, the amount of time wasting that went on during that game from Honduras is, I was not surprised that it was 9 minutes, to be honest.
Are you guys glad that the rules and laws are changing with this added time, where they're really adding on more and more and more and more to offset this time wasting?
I do. I like it just because, I mean, it's only fair. If one team is, on purposely trying, like Javi said, goalkeeper goes down, people with hamstrings who they're not really hurt, stuff like that. I mean, add as much time. I mean, it's only fair. So
I honestly would like to see how many times. I think the goalkeeper probably went down 5 or 6 times in the game where they had to stop it. The referee had to come check on him and things like that.
Damn.
I mean, in a way, it should. The whole point of that is, no matter what, they're going to add the time. So, in a way, it's trying to take it away so players stop doing it. Mm-hmm. Stop trying to waste the extra 30 seconds or a minute or whatever of random injuries that they pop up with. Because you can tell when it's a serious thing when it's not. And it's always when a team is winning by a goal, somehow in the last 5 to 10 minutes, that team usually, somehow, the goalkeeper goes down, players go down, they waste time. So it's not, of course, it's part of the game, it's technique, but I'm glad that the referees are, in the whole entire world, the referees are adding more time just to offset all that. So, I mean, it's only fair to me, so.
A lot of goal schemes seem to be happening at the absolute.
Here's the only issue with that. People are saying, especially because they did it at the World Cup, right? The World Cup where they
this was insane
amounts of time
10, 11, 12, 13,
because they started taking into account any time the ball was out of play, whereas typically you only put the added time for injuries, for whatever random stoppages of play that take time. You don't do it when the ball goes out and the goalkeeper puts it back in for a goal kick and things like that. So in the World Cup, they started adding all of those minutes. So they wanted exactly 90 minutes of on the field play.
There's a lot of ball rolling time.
Yeah, there's a lot of breaks in between a game. So I think as a fan, you probably like it because you get to see more, right? And it makes things more dramatic when a team is chasing a game and then at the end of the game they still have 10 more minutes to try and get back in the game. From a player's perspective, though, especially in tournaments where the time of recovery is already shorter. Can you imagine teams in knockout stages, not only just, so like Mexico, right? They played 90 minutes plus an extra 17 minutes, I think around 17 minutes of stoppage time in both halves, plus the extra time, which then they added another 3-4 minutes at the end of those extra times. And then imagine having a game 2 or 3 days later.
You're almost playing like 2 games in one day with all of that.
And it's not even just about the recovery time, but it's also the fact that your body cannot last that long without something happening at the end of it, cramps, people pulling muscles, things like that as well.
Yeah.
It's different though. I mean, I guess that's the gray area about it. If a player goes down and there's, on purpose staying on the ground, that's one thing. If they're adding time when the ball completely goes out of bounds, that's completely different. So I don't think they should be adding the time of let's say a player kicks it out and it's in the stands, and it takes like 10 seconds or 20 seconds. That's gonna happen for like 5 minutes at every game, no matter what, regardless if a team is trying to do that or not, or it goes for a corner or a goal kick. So I don't think that time should be added. But if a player's on purpose laying on the ground, faking an injury or taking their time, or goalkeeper's down and taking their time or whatever, then that should be added. But not about when it goes out of bounds. So I guess in between would be the most fair. But like, you can't, if I'm a team chasing the game and the ball goes out of bounds and I'm sprinting after it, but it's like 20 yards off the field, like I'm just trying to get the ball. It's not like I'm wasting time. So that shouldn't be added.
Yeah, and there's natural breaks that don't affect a certain team to help them a little bit more. Like you're right. When someone time wastes because they fake an injury or whatever, then obviously that benefits them more than the other team. But when the ball just goes out of play at the beginning of the game, nobody really cares, right?
Yeah, especially when it's a tie game. Like you shouldn't be adding that time. But I mean, I don't know what the exact rule is, I guess.
We'll come back to this, Joe, because we have as part of the laws of the game and the fun facts, something happened in this game that I'm glad you didn't watch the game, because we're going to quiz you on that at the end of this.
Dun, 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 dun.
Georgie watched the game, so I can't do it, Georgie.
But are we keeping score with these quizzes? Because I did get the last quiz and he did not.
You're right. You're
so
1-0.
1-0.
Well, I already won this one.
But we'll get to that later.
He's still gonna, you know, ask him anyways, because I'm excited to beat him on this one anyways.
But it's weird though with this game, because the penalties thing, in terms of who plays who.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. So if Mexico would have won in overtime, or Honduras would have won in overtime, they would have played against the United States in the semifinal. But because Mexico won in PKs, Mexico now plays against Panama in the semifinal. Because the PKs, and we should know this from college actually, because this happens in college as well. PKs don't actually count as a win or a loss; they count as a draw.
That is true. Is that for sports betting too? Because I think it is for sports betting. PKs count as a draw.
It is, but we're not sports betting. We're not in college.
But I'm saying, but they do it based off of points and based off of. So technically, Mexico doesn't get
as many points.
I think that's why.
So they have to play a worse.
Correct. So Mexico doesn't finish in the same spot as they would have if they would have gotten 2 extra points from winning the game in overtime. They only get the 1 point for the draw.
No.
So because the U.S. won, they would have more points. So they're going to play a worse team in the semifinals.
Listen,
that makes sense. That's fair.
We don't do our research, so I don't have no idea.
No, but that wouldn't make sense. Because Mexico, if they would have won, they would have played the United States. So they would have had more points.
I don't know exactly what the points look like and everything.
Yeah, I guess we might be wrong on the points. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we might be wrong on the points, but what I'm saying is that because they technically classify it as a draw or whatever, it puts them in different standings, which then forces them to play whoever else.
That's so weird.
It's weird.
I don't think I've ever heard.
But it's better because now we get a Mexico-USA final.
Right, so it's more favorable. Is that a conspiracy theory, Georgie?
Ooh.
Do we have a conspiracy theory here? Something that we should investigate?
As soon as you told me that is what would happen, because throughout the extra time I was telling Javi like the odds of like Mexico, so it was like you get a double, triple, whatever as the time went on, because you get less time to go, so Mexico less time to find a winner. But as soon as you told me that that's what would happen, I was like, this is going to a draw.
Now Mexico did not play like it.
No, they didn't play like it.
Trying to find the winner.
No, they were trying the whole entire 30 minutes.
But it makes you wonder: is there somebody pulling the strings from above?
Do you think the players knew that?
I don't.
I don't think only a few would have. I would have guessed.
I would have never known.
That's a complicated scenario. You don't really think about it that much.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're only trying to win the game.
Yeah.
You don't really care who you play next. You just want to win the game and get through.
They were so focused on the fact that they had to overcome a 2-0 deficit that I don't think it would have mattered whether they won it in regular time or PKs. And think about it, PKs as well is a coin toss for that level. Yeah. So you got to think that they're not going to say, oh, well, let's win in PKs. Let's tactically win in PKs, because you really can't do that.
Yeah.
Either way, I don't know how you feel about the United States, Joe, but for me, Mexico's in a very bad spot. We are not looking good. We are struggling right now. Watching some of those guys struggle against Honduras, and at times in the first leg where Honduras looked much better than us, just their tactics and the way that they played, it makes me feel like we're not even close to where we need to be for the Copa America, but also in the World Cup. We need somebody to come out of nowhere, some young 17, 18-year-old come out of nowhere and be the Christian Pulisic for Mexico right now, because we are struggling.
I mean, I feel similarly to you about the USA, where doesn't look good. I think that's part of the downside of being in CONCACAF, though. You play games like this, and as a player, you get a false sense of you're doing well because you can win trophies. When you beat the people in front of you, you win games. You can only play so many international games anyways that you don't really get tested. And when then you play in these friendlies, it's not the same. Where this summer, like the Copa America this summer, I think is going to be huge for USA, Mexico. Can Canada make it?
I think Canada's got to go through the playoff now.
They have to go through the playoff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have not. I don't really.
But so do you think that the CONCACAF has gotten better? And that's why maybe we don't look, above the rest like we used to, whereas United States and Mexico used to be just us two versus the rest of CONCACAF? Or do you think it's just USA and Mexico are just not at a similar level that they used to be?
I think CONCACAF has gotten better because you could argue that the United States team is the best it's ever been because there's more people on that team now playing in Europe than ever before, playing in Champions League. But I think just with technology and all that, the world's getting smaller. So a lot of these other players in Trinidad or in these other countries, they can people will find them now, where 15, 20 years ago, when the internet wasn't as rampant, I don't think they could. So I think CONCACAF's just getting better.
I think Mexico is struggling to find quality players at the moment. Like if you compare them to the days where Giovanni Dos Santos, Carlos Vela, Rafa Marquez, like all those guys, Guardado, all those guys, I think we are way worse than we used to be. Looking at I look at the lineup and I'm like, this is really our best 11. Typically you find these players and you're like, oh, it's because the good players didn't want to come or they couldn't come or whatever. But this is supposed to be our best 11 right now and we are struggling.
It is weird to see Mexico, because I think Mexico's the opposite of the U.S. in that. You guys are getting worse. You are having less players play in Europe. You are having... even if you look at Lozano, who at the last World Cup or two ago? Two, I think. Not the last one, not Qatar, but before. Right after that, he was going to be what you were talking about.
I think that was probably the last World Cup.
No, that would have been, I thought it was in Russia, because that's when you guys knocked out Germany. Remember when you beat Germany? That World Cup, I was like, man, this guy's going to be amazing for you for the foreseeable future. And not so much.
Was it? Oh, yeah, that was. You're right. 2 World Cups ago. Wow, that was a while ago. I forgot the Qatar one was just a year ago. That's why.
Yeah.
But yes, so player-wise, I think we're struggling and we need to figure something out. The good thing is that we have a coach that people believe in. I think people believe in. Right now, there's probably a few doubts, but I think people can recognize that it's not his fault. It's just the fact that our players are just struggling. But anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on from CONCACAF. France win 14-0 over Gibraltar. Joe, you said you saw a video with Deschamps talking to the locker room. Was that?
Yeah, at halftime. They went into half, I think, up 7-0. And Deschamps was firing up the group, talking about what the record was and how it was 10 goals and how France could go after it, beat it, and smash the record, which they did. I think the final score was, 14-0?
Yep. With
Giroud scoring a bicycle kick, I think, in stoppage time, which means
Giroud does score goals after.
It just proves that they were really chasing after it. What are your guys' thoughts on, in a competitive match like that, going out there when you're already up 7-0 to score as many goals as humanly possible in the second half?
I think it just looks bad when you see the video and you hear him talk about it. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's I don't think it's they're professional players. They're the highest level players. You go out there and try to win and play your best game possible. Like, simple as that. I just think the whole outlook is made a lot worse just because of that video coming out. If that video never came out and they won 14-0, people would be like, okay, they won 14-0. But just the fact that he says it in that way, in that tone, it's like, oh, just go out there. We need to score more, blah, blah, blah. We can break the record. That makes it look worse. If I'm in that position, you play your best no matter what. Like, right. you don't stop.
Yeah.
Because then you can look at it both ways. But I'll talk from experience. I got my ass handed to me in a friendly game by Frosinone when they came to play Detroit City, and the game finished 10-0. I think it might have been more. I don't know. I think it finished
10 or 11. 10 or 11.
10 or 11, 2-0.
Damn.
And the whole entire time, it sucked because I probably touched the ball like 5 times the whole game. But in a way, I had a lot more respect for them coming in, playing their best team, taking it as like.
It was a serious game to them.
To them, it was a serious game. It was a week or 10 days before the season started, and for Serie A. And they were going from Serie B, they promoted to Serie A. So we had to play them. And, you know, usually when you play those friendly games, you're like, oh, it's going to be a friendly. Like, friendly. No, it wasn't. They came out. I think they had 9 of the starting 11 players that started the first game of the season in Serie A playing that match against us. So they took it from the first whistle into the final whistle, nonstop, trying to score, trying to outplay us, everything. So for me, as much as it sucked to be part of that, I had a lot more respect for them because they didn't take it easy.
The respect to the competition of it.
They didn't score 2 goals and they're like, all right, we'll just keep the ball. We don't care anymore.
Right.
No, they kept going and going and going. So for me, even though I was in...
Did you play the whole 90? Or did you get subbed at like 60th minute at least?
I think I played the whole 90 because I think at that point we didn't have...
Yeah,
like
so the timing of that game was terrible because we played that game. I was on the sidelines because I was with Ben as his assistant. But we played that game at the end of the summer. And this was still an amateur semi-pro team. So all of our best players had already gone back to college. So we just had whoever was left over. The season was over and it was the last game. No. I mean,
and then we had a 5th string goalkeeper or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Georgie was probably the worst player on the field that day.
To be honest, I got a few slide tackles in, all right?
We did. So it was the end of the summer, and it was one of those games where the coach is like, who is still around and can play in this game? It wasn't like, oh, we're going to put our best 11. It was really like, who's still here? And they were coming in as a preseason tour. So they were coming because 2 weeks after that, they had to go play against Juventus and Cristiano Ronaldo, who had just gotten to Juventus.
Insane.
So they're preparing to play with Cristiano Ronaldo in 2 weeks, and they come to play us. So they took it serious while we're fielding a wounded team. I'll be honest. If you look at some of the names on that starting 11, Georgie, I'm like, how are these guys playing against some of these? But anyway, listen, I'm not going to get into I'm not going to name any names. George Chamakov.
When you need to play against Ronaldo in 2 weeks, play against Georgie.
They were going to kick. They were going to kick our butts regardless. Yeah. But the timing made it even worse because you're looking around. There's nothing you can do about it. My thoughts on that are this, and I think Sergio Ramos, when Spain played against a team that they ended up beating like 8 or 9-0, or it was I can't remember if it was him or a Mexican national team player who played against a crap team. They said that because they get asked that question, right? Is that bad sportsmanship to do that to a team? And they said it would be bad sportsmanship if we didn't give our best effort in that game. That would be disrespectful to the other team. So just like Georgie was saying, if they didn't try hard and if they kind of just took the piss out of the game, that would have been more disrespectful to that team rather than actually trying and performing.
I agree with both of you on that. There's been times where while I'm coaching young kids, obviously, but you tell them to, even if it's like, hey, we need to do this many passes before you score or whatever, you don't want to yell and scream across the field when there's parents on the other sideline and the other team can hear you, hey, don't score, don't score, don't score, because that is more of an insult to the competitive nature of the game, the opposition, the opposing coach, everything, than just going out there, playing your best, and the results fall as they may. So, and
I think that's the big difference between the two, right? Is that at the professional level, these people are getting paid to do this. There is no, oh, I'm sorry, I feel bad for you. Like, if you didn't prepare, if you didn't come prepared, or if this is just not your best, I'm sorry, but this is the way it is. At the youth levels, like Joe's saying, at halftime, if you notice it, or before halftime, whenever, you make changes. You put your center backs to play forward. You put your best forward as an outside back or a goalkeeper or whatever, and you tell them, hey, we need to get 5 passes before we can go forward, and you do that because out of respect for these kids that are just there to play the game that they love, not because they're getting paid money. However, at the professional levels, that's the problem that I find with like people on social media saying, "Oh, it's so disrespectful that they scored 14." Like this is not youth. This is not youth soccer.
Yeah.
Like this is the problem with I think a lot of the youth sports nowadays is that again we talk about like the participation trophies and things like that. So
10-0.
10-0 was the final score. Georgie did some research. Man. Yeah.
I was part of the game. I don't remember.
He tried to block that out of your brain.
I thought it was 11-0. But either way, I'm just saying. I think people saying that it's disrespectful. That's a joke. Like these are professional athletes at the highest levels. That's a joke.
I just think it looks bad because of the video.
Even to me, I actually respect him more for it because to me it shows that Deschamps knew enough. Hey, we've won a World Cup. We made it to the final of the next World Cup. We lost in PKs at that World Cup. Like it shows the level of perfection that he's chasing. Yeah. Which, if I was a player on that team, would be inspiring. Like if you're Mbappe and you're looking at your coach and he's saying, "We can keep going. We can get more. We can do better." I find that incredibly motivating, exhilarating, inspiring, whatever word you want to use, because in today's day and age, there's so many people who don't have that anymore. They're not chasing after something so big and so great that it makes them nervous, where it sounds like he is. For me, I was really, really excited to see him talk that way. And I could see him being the France coach for a very long time.
I agree with that.
Because he's clearly demanding higher levels, and they're already one bounce away from being the best team in the world, back-to-back World Cups.
Did you guys watch the England versus North Macedonia game? No. I didn't watch it. I saw the score.
I saw the scoreline and saw Harry Kane, I think, saved him, really.
Yeah, he came on as a sub.
It's not.
When do you think the English people are going to finally turn against Southgate?
See, this is the thing, though.
I think they're there already.
A lot of them support him, which is crazy. A lot of them, oh, he's the right guy. He's great manager.
But this game didn't matter. Like, this game England were going to finish top, regardless. Mm-hmm. So he had there's no, I don't want to say, again, it goes to the respect again, right? You want to play.
It's North Macedonia, Georgie.
I know.
It doesn't matter. England's B team. England's C team,
which it was the B team. To be fair,
it was a mix. It was.
I'm going to pull up the lineup. Part of me thinks it's also on Southgate because he should have taken some more young and up and coming players to play in that game who could be on the fringe of making the national team, because he keeps picking the same people for every camp, it feels like, and he adds in maybe one or two. But he already knows who his people are going to be, and he keeps bringing them. But
they're top of the group, so like, why risk? Like, me personally as a Liverpool fan, I was pretty pissed that you played Trent in the center mid position in a game that didn't matter. Like, to me, that's like I know he's there. He got called up as the national team. He
had a lot of good players playing in that though. He had Trent. He had Kyle
Walker, Maguire, Pickford, Lewis, Declan Rice, Trent, Foden, Grealish, Saka, and Ollie Watkins.
Just the back line was suspect.
Yeah, even that though, with the Maguire and Kyle Walker, those are your. And
Maguire is not suspect.
That he starts Maguire. He keeps
starting him. But that's the problem. That's one of the problems.
I mean, he's Maguire to me is suspect, but not to Gareth Southgate. He's their
captain. Crystal Palace guy too. Right?
But I'm just saying, like in terms of the quality,
Mark.
In terms of the quality, if you look at that team, that's not their B team. Their back line is probably not as good as it should be.
Yeah.
But if you look at the rest of them, you got Declan Rice, you got Saka. You got Foden, right? Yeah. Kyle Walker's there. Like that's
Jack Grealish.
That's a legit team.
Well, you started. I think Saka and Foden started in between Saka, Grealish, and Foden. Two of those three started. I think almost every game in the World Cup, right? Maybe Sterling.
So the Euros are coming up next, right? That's the next big one.
Yeah.
So what would you say would be an acceptable position for England? For people to say Southgate is the right manager? Is it a win or nothing? Is it a final? Is it a semifinal? What is it that you think people will say either he's got to go or this is good enough?
I would say if he does not win either the Euros or the World Cup, he will be gone. He has to be, because they've already made they made the finals of the last Euros, right? It's when they lost to Italy. They were winning the game and lost in penalties. So to me, I'd say they have to make the semifinals for him to have a chance to coach them at the World Cup. But if he doesn't win a trophy in either of those, I think he will be gone after that, because they need someone to get them over the hump before this batch of players is too old.
That's what I was just thinking, the age of the current team. I think they have 4 years. Harry Kane is going to be pushing it in 4 years.
Yeah, that's the one that is going to be killer for them to lose.
And then you have the Kyle Walker 4 years, Maguire 4 years.
But even those ones have, like Maguire and Kyle Walker, you have somewhat decent replacements who can still be there between Trippier and Trent and Ben White even, who still can't even.
I say semifinals in the Euros.
Yeah. I would say if he doesn't get to at least the final in the Euros, I would be one of the people pushing for him to be out and having a new manager to get those 2 years before the World Cup.
You think a loss in the semifinals?
Yes.
Not
good enough.
Yeah.
This is if you go player for player, this is supposed to be the best team in the world.
Yeah.
Everyone can agree on that. That if you go player for player, position for position, they have the most talent on their team.
I would argue that slightly.
France.
Okay.
France, but they're up there, 100%.
And France gets the World Cup final. They won the World Cup before that.
Yep.
Like France doesn't disappoint.
No,
hasn't disappointed.
Has won a Euro in between all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, made it to a Euro final, I think, too.
England has no trophies to show for any of it.
Nope.
How long has Southgate been the manager now?
Is it 6 years, 8 years?
It's been a long time.
He coached them in Qatar. He coached them in Russia. Who was their coach in 2014?
Roy Hodgson, wasn't it?
In Brazil?
Yeah.
So I think he took over right after Brazil, probably. So almost 10 years?
Almost 10 years, and he's got not a single trophy to... And they don't have as many tournaments or trophies to win in that time frame, but still.
They have one to win every year now with Nations League.
Yeah.
Because you have Nations League in between your Euros, right?
Euros should be... Because you don't have Argentina, you don't have Brazil.
I think now he's got to be under a lot more scrutiny because of the fact that not only have they not won, but now in current times, he's going to have to make decisions whether he puts Jordan Henderson, who might be a good player, but the fact that he went to Saudi and is now playing in the Saudi league is going to start over players who are playing their best soccer, their best football in English Premier League.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be the one. Like it's okay if he puts Henderson in, but if he doesn't get past the semifinal, you got to say what kind of decisions are you making there, buddy?
I will say, because he does make some questionable decisions, even like we were talking about with Harry Maguire coming consistently. Pickford still being the goalie is another one where if he makes these bold predictions and doesn't win, I hadn't even thought about that as an increased, I guess, motivation for the fans to want to move him, because he does make what appears to be some boneheaded moves.
Unfortunately for England, though, they've never had really good goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, they've never had a world-class number one goalkeeper, or not never, but they struggle in the goalkeeper position.
Joe Hart was probably...
Joe
Hart's probably one
Pickford.
of those.
Who else?
I mean, they've had Seaman, Joe Hart, Pickford, James...
all right, so out of all of those...
Let the sitter in against England. Or against the United States. Green? Yeah.
So out of all of those, probably David Seaman was the best one, maybe? Mm-hmm. And you got to think, how long has that been?
2002, because that's when, and funny part, they got bounced because of a mistake he made with the Ronaldinho chip cross.
I like Nick Pope. I don't know why Nick Pope is not...
I'd agree with you on that.
I mean, he did have a head injury for a while. He was out, but...
Well, I think their second and third goalkeeper are better than their first.
Yeah, Ramsdale.
And Ramsdale and Pope, I think, are both better than Pickford.
Ramsdale would play if he played for Arsenal.
He did play for Arsenal, and he didn't play for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Decisions from the manager. Sketchy. And suspect.
To be fair, though, Maguire, for England, for the most part, has done really well. In England.
Because he's got
I think if you make that into a short, there will be a lot of people who will comment on that one.
I mean, he really has, though.
He gets a lot of crap for the stuff that he's done at Manchester United, more so than the stuff that he does for England.
In England, somehow it's like...
He's a different guy. Is it because he's hidden amongst much? But when you're playing next to Kyle Walker, you can make a lot of mistakes.
Yep, I would say that.
Yeah, I mean, that has a lot to do with it. You're playing with a lot better players. I don't know. Because at Leicester, he was good. I don't know. I don't know what happened with Maguire at Manchester United. That's a whole different...
I just wonder how long Southgate's got before people start realizing that if they had a better manager, they should be able to get over the hump. There's nothing stopping them from being a World Cup
They should have
winning team.
They should have beaten Italy in that final, going up against Italy, and then but
what did England do before Southgate? They weren't even anywhere near this.
Yeah, but they didn't have these players. I guess I can't say that because they did. When you look at Gerrard, Rooney, Lampard, that generation,
like that generation was just
that generation. So one of my good friends at work is English, and he talks a lot about how the golden generation was screwed over by Novar in their game against. Do you remember when they got whooped by Germany?
Yep. And where if they would have that ball that crossed the line, had they given them the goal, the game would have been different.
Could have been different, yeah.
Well, that's a whole different topic. I will say the Gerrard, Lampard. I don't want to say Rooney because Rooney was kind of different, but like the whole midfield did not really ever come together as a team.
So then maybe it's a problem of them just being overhyped. You also got to think. I mean, now
there's some truth to that.
France is pretty stacked. France has a very good team. Back in those days, Brazil had a legit team back in the day. That World Cup winning team. Italy was much better back then. So the competition, I think, in those times were, I wouldn't say more difficult, but more difficult for England at that time.
Germany back then.
Yeah, Germany was. So I wonder if England is overhyped and the players are overhyped because, again, we talk about this. The English Premier League is the most watched league in the world. And because it's in front of everybody just assumes that it's the best league in the world. Whether it is or it isn't is actually a different conversation probably altogether.
I'd say I think the league would be the best. Like if you put all of the teams in a tournament, I think a lot of the lower teams in England would perform well against the lower teams in other countries. But at the top levels, like I don't think that Arsenal is that much better or even better than Real Madrid, if that makes sense. Like at those top levels, I would almost argue the top teams in other countries are better.
So you want the Super League then?
No. I think the way it's set up
right now is perfect.
Back to the Super League. No, but it
or you could just have one really big league.
That would be insane.
Like one European
Super League.
Well, no, like one European league, not just for you buy into and have to have the biggest clubs, but
yeah, it's called the Champions League, Joe.
Yeah, I'm talking about from an actual season standpoint where you play 25, 35 games against. Because imagine if you just took the top 5 teams from every. Like imagine if the Champions League had its own season.
The Super League.
The Super League was what? 6 teams? 8 teams?
It was a lot, but then they all started being scared because they're gonna get fined. It was crazy.
Yeah,
so
I think
the whole.
If that's what the Super League was, but to me the Super League was made up of like 15 teams total.
It was
like 8 to not even 15. I don't think. I think it was like 8 to 10 or something.
Yeah, it was 8 to 10, and all of them got scared because FIFA said or UEFA said that they're gonna get banned and all that stuff. But
yeah, probably the league is better, but there are better teams out there that just are by them. Real Madrid and Barcelona are the only 2 teams in La Liga. Really, the only 2 consistently over time.
Yeah.
France is the only one. France is literally PSG, and there's every once in a while a team gets close and then PSG wins the league. Germany, Dortmund has been the only team that's really battled a little bit for RB Leipzig. Who else?
Leverkusen now. Leverkusen that's just because Xabi Alonso's there, and once he leaves, it'll fall apart.
But in the English Premier League, now think about it. Manchester City has won the league, the last 4 out of 5 years or something crazy like that?
Yeah. It'll be 6 out of 7, I think, if they win this year.
But how many English players are on that Man City winning team nonstop? Kyle Walker.
Phil Foden?
Nope.
Phil Foden is in and out.
Yeah.
Was in and out. He's much more consistent now.
Calvin Phillips is always on the bench.
Calvin Phillips.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be the next big thing for England in the midfield. John Stones, I would argue, when he's healthy, he plays for England. And that's where it ends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Rico Lewis coming up, but he doesn't start consistently for City. You're right.
So there's a lot of the teams in the Premier League are good, and there's the odd English player that's really good on a team, but the consistency compared to the French team, where you have Mbappe always performing, where you have, Giroud is doing pretty well in the Serie A as well, like for AC Milan. and when he was at Arsenal. So do you have Griezmann at Atletico Madrid? It just
I think you need. My takeaway from this is that, in my opinion, you need a coach or a manager that's going to be able to unlock the part that's missing for England, which is having a good team with good team chemistry playing good football, rather than supposedly the best players in the world.
Do you think there's anything to the fact that England isn't known for winning? And I mean, Gareth Southgate clearly hasn't won anything with England, I don't believe.
You're saying like the standard isn't there yet?
Well, not just the standard. You don't have the history and the pedigree of winning, which in big games, it's not that the talent level is so small. It's the experience of people who know how to go out and win those types of games. And if you look at England, obviously the English players don't win trophies with their national team. And then if you look at them for their club teams, which ones on their teams, to your point, are a part of a winning culture that wins consistently? Really none of them. Yeah. Outside of Kyle Walker, right? John Stones, Kyle Walker. But then if you look at where I could see it potentially changing if, let's say, Arsenal starts doing great, and then you have Declan Rice, you have Saka, who are very influential on the England team in the dressing room. They could be the people who, hey, we know what it's like to not be great. We were part of it. We started winning. Now we can consistently win, and they're young enough where the next 10 years, if Arsenal keeps winning, they might be able to parlay that winning mentality that they learned from Arteta, bring it to England and almost teach it to
It's why
Southgate and the crew.
That's why Real Madrid is so good in the Champions League, because they have the experience of knowing how to win in tough situations. Where the last time that they won it, they got through, was it 2 games that they were down, and in like the last couple minutes turned it around. Mm-hmm. So there is something to be said about just having the experience of a winning mentality, of knowing how to manage a game and how to finally get over the hump and win the games.
So there's Jude, someone that's on a winning team that will win. Jude will be the one.
He could be the one.
He could be the one.
All right, so let's get into the next segment: conspiracy theories.
Uh-oh.
Dun dun dun. We need a sound effect in the background when I play this, like some news type thing. All right, Georgie's got a conspiracy theory on Manchester City players purposely injuring themselves for international break.
Okay, that doesn't sound right. It's more of mind games with Pep. If you go back in history throughout Pep's tenure at Man
Georgie's
City,
going to link the article that he found that says if you go back in history.
I don't want to say every. I can say actually every time there's a big game after an international break, Man City players announce, or not the players themselves, but the club announces, Rodri has pulled out from the Spain squad due to an injury. 3 days later, everyone's like, in doubt for the Liverpool game, because that's what they're playing now. In doubt for the Liverpool game. Ederson, in doubt for the Liverpool game. John Stones, in doubt for the Liverpool game. Haaland, in doubt for the Liverpool game. Their whole entire team, and then an article comes out, and it says, Man City has 7 players in training. Who are they going to field against Liverpool or X team, whoever? 4 days before, Rodri returns to training, available for Liverpool game. Ederson returns to training, available for Liverpool game. Haaland, same thing. It happens most of the time when Man City, followed by international break, followed by a big game. So mind games. Pep, mind games. It's
so who do you think? So do you think it's Manchester City, the club, Pep specifically, or Pep being one of the people that is pulling the strings behind this? Or do you think it's the players' mentality of, we want to win against Liverpool, so we care more about Manchester City than we care about our international break?
So I'll give you an example. Haaland, he actually went to the international game, played, got stepped down, twisted ankle, whatever, came out, didn't play the second game, so he went early to Man City. Questionable to play. Pep came out and said he's unlikely going to be available for Liverpool game. 2 days later, he's available. So I just think it's mind games from Pep's point. I don't know who has more authority, obviously, whether you don't just show up to a camp in England or wherever to your international teams. But Rodri, for example, he went to the international break, didn't play the first game at all because, something is wrong with my foot. I feel uneasy about it. How has that happened with 7 of the Man City players before a big game coming up?
All right, so first of all, you just made up the number 7 because it's definitely not 7. I'll tell you that right now.
7 injuries? It's more than 7.
So there's more than 7 players from Manchester City who went on international break.
No. 7 that are...
that didn't fully participate in international break is what it sounds like.
Right, but that are coming back to play the game.
No, I'm saying, well, so far, 3 of the key players are back. I don't know about like Akanji or whatever. I don't know what they go through.
Right.
But I'm saying the key players that they're saying, Haaland might not play, he's back. He's available.
So I guess my question to this conspiracy theory is who's pulling the strings? Who is forcing this or who's making this all happen? Is it Pep?
I think I don't know.
American college football.
Joe ties everything back to college football.
This is the thing. It's happened so many times. It's not just the Liverpool game. It's happened so many times in Man City where Pep comes out before the international break or during while some of the players are training and they didn't go to the international break. And then somehow they end up being available for the big game coming up. And that's training. You got to think, if you don't go to the international break, a lot of the players that didn't go are training. So you're getting ready for the games coming up. Just because it gives you that advantage.
All right, so comment down below if you think Georgie has something here, if there's something to be investigated.
I will find all the games.
We'll send one of our people to go and do a full-on investigation.
Yeah, throw in the chats why Georgie's wrong.
Yeah.
All I know is Pep is gonna come in my DMs on Instagram and he's like, "Why are you spreading false rumors, man?"
Well, anyway, if he does that, ask him to come on the podcast and tell us how
ask him if he needs an assistant coach. All right. The other conspiracy theory, it's not really a conspiracy theory, but this is something that happened. So the Premier League clubs voted against the ban on loans from clubs of the same ownership group. What that means is that basically, like Newcastle, we'll use Newcastle as an example. Newcastle has an ownership group that also owns... how many clubs in Saudi Arabia?
4.
4 clubs in Saudi Arabia.
4 clubs in the same league?
Yeah, it didn't make sense. I think
that's weird. So they compete against themselves?
They're not full ownership, but they're some...
But there's connections.
Yeah, there's connections. Yeah, okay.
So the Premier League clubs voted not to ban loans from these. So basically the scenario that can happen is that Cristiano Ronaldo, who plays for Al Nassr, right?
Yeah, I think
he plays for Al Nassr, right?
Yeah.
He can get loaned out to Newcastle for no money. Al Nassr can still pay his wages. Newcastle doesn't have to do anything. There's an ethics question about financial fair play in that.
Huge.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the Premier League voted not to ban it so it can happen. How much of an effect do you think this actually has? Like how many times do you think teams will actually do this?
I think this is... I don't know how much is going to happen now, like in the near future. I think this will get exposed and the Premier League will have to do something about it.
Yeah.
Because you can, well, it's not cheating the system because you just voted on it, but I'm going to call it cheating the system because Newcastle were bought by the Saudi owners, brought in X amount of money that you can spend trying to fit within the financial fair play. And then you can go to Saudi Arabia, buy a team, or you can go wherever, in whatever country, but where you're not really looked at under UEFA or FIFA or anybody's looking at you in terms of financial fair play. You can pay your players 100 times the amount that you're going to get in the Premier League. You go to Saudi Arabia, for example, for 2 months. Season ends, as it has, because they're different times. And then you can bring that player to the Premier League to play for your respective club that you own. And you don't break the rules financially.
Yeah.
So if the Newcastle owners, let's say they bought Neymar, Ronaldo, Messi, for whatever, for an example, all those 3 players, obviously if the player wants to, can come to Newcastle and play for X amount of games during that loan.
The only argument which is why I don't think it was that big of a deal, which is why I think they voted against it, or one of the arguments is the fact that players in this league, in the leagues that where they're going to be grabbing players from, are not as good as the Premier League. So they're saying it's not that big of a deal because you can pick your best players from all of these teams, and they're still not going to be like ringers. You know what I mean? Whereas, let's say this is happening in MLS, and now you can have Haaland be loaned to Inter Miami, if that makes sense, right? Whereas Saudi Arabia is like, okay, yeah, you can get Ronaldo, but Ronaldo's still not really one of the best players if he comes over here. So is it really going to help you that much? Probably not. Whereas if it was the other way around, it would probably make a huge difference.
Short term, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to make a big difference. Long term, I think it will, because now, as a player before, one of the reasons why you didn't want to go to Saudi was I want to compete in the Champions League and I want to play at wherever. Now you're telling me I can go to Saudi, be signed by whomever, get paid whatever, and I can write it in my contract and say, for every Newcastle Champions League game, I'm going to Newcastle and I'm playing.
Right.
That 3 years from now, I could see the landscape of this being completely different. And I think it's part of me's thinking that the Saudis planned this whole thing up front of this is what we'll do. We'll start getting some players over here. We'll bring some talent. We won't get the best of the best of the best, but we'll bring some people. And then after that, we're going to figure out a way to partner with the EPL or these other places and then tie the threads. It's the same thing they did in golf, really. I don't know if you guys follow golf at all with the live golf thing.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I'm surprised that the Premier League went for it.
Yeah, I mean...
But I think to your point, they needed an odd amount of signatures. They needed
14
to veto it.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
And they got 13.
Yep.
So it wasn't the majority. It had to be a few votes past the majority in order for it to...
Yeah.
Which makes no sense. If you're talking about a vote like that, it should be 11 votes is needed.
To pass a new rule.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they also got to think there's 3 clubs in that vote that are not going to feel the effects of it. The 3 teams in the relegation zone. So that's why I think they're thinking, like, if we can get 14 out of 20... Is it? Yeah, 14 out of 20, right? Yeah. If we can get 14 out of 20, that's really the majority because the 3 teams at the bottom are voting for something that's not going to affect them at all.
Yeah, but then you can say the same thing from the 3 that come up because they're going to be in the worst situation trying to fight.
They're going to have to fight against 2 teams. They have to fight against Newcastle. They have to fight against Newcastle and all 5 teams, really, because if they own multiple teams. And
Crystal Palace is one where Crystal Palace, and I think those owners now own Lyon in France. So now it becomes like, okay, well, that's a bit different though. I will say it's a bit different if you're within Europe or within the same calendar year, just because you want both your teams to do well. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to just buy and stack up, which you could.
Also, your players are also cup tied too, because once you play for Crystal Palace, if they were in the Champions League, once you play for them, you can't switch and then play.
Yeah.
But to your point, the Saudi teams are like on their own, and these guys can go make all this money and play from whomever they want.
Ruben Neves left, went to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Links with Newcastle already.
Well, I think like Laporte could come back, and I think he could step into most teams and play and do well. But
I'll tell you what, at least they let the clubs vote on this, and this wasn't like an FA vote.
Yeah.
So at least they gave the votes to the club so that they can have their input. They didn't get the necessary votes, Georgie.
Man City is not going to vote against it. Why would they? They can buy whoever.
Yeah, but Manchester City can buy whoever now. For them, they might want to vote.
That's another problem.
They might want to vote against it because then now teams like Newcastle are going to be competing
with them because they have multiple. They can field so many teams.
You're just fighting. Well, first of all, Man City. Are we going to talk about the fact that they have 115 counts and then Everton get 1 and they get deducted 10 points?
That is another... Listen, we don't have room for 3 conspiracies in one podcast.
We'll be here all day. Listen, took us 3 hours to set up.
We need Man City and Chelsea relegated, all right? That's what we need. Get them out.
Liverpool as well. They've done some corruption at some point.
No chance.
I would like to see the details of Jurgen Klopp's contract.
Jurgen Klopp always moving their games to the early game to have a competitive advantage.
Maybe Liverpool is preferring to have these games. And they ask Liverpool, hey, would you like us to move you? And Jurgen Klopp's like, absolutely. I can go home earlier, spend some more time with my family. Huh?
Why would he complain about it?
To throw you off the trail.
Exactly.
You think my boy Klopp will lie to me? No.
All right, so we'll move on from the conspiracy theories. Laws of the game. Here we go, Joe.
Dun, 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 dun.
Again, we need another sound effect for this. All right, so I had another one written down here, actually. So let's go through two of them. Why not?
Two of them?
Two of them. Start with an easy one.
Just for me, or does he involve two?
This one can be both of you, because... Okay. But this one's an easy one. But this, you might not know if you're a casual fan. Ooh. All right? As you know, you can pass the ball back to the goalkeeper so long as it comes off of any part other than obviously your arms, or hands, but your feet, any part other than your feet. All right. Is there any restrictions to this rule?
Yeah. What do you mean? Like,
it has to be.
So you can header the ball back to the goalkeeper.
It has to be a natural thing, so you can't juggle it up to header it back to your goalie.
All right. I wasn't sure if you guys were going to get that one or not.
Yeah, it's not.
So some people think that you can. Some people think that you can stop.
It can't be intentional.
Flick the ball up and then header it back to your goalkeeper. You can't do that. Perisic did that. Yeah, a couple years ago, and they gave him a yellow card. And
for what? I think it's unsportsmanlike. Technically,
yeah,
right?
it's unsportsmanlike because it's using trickery in order to do it. So you get a yellow card, and I believe it's a indirect free kick.
Question on that: Would it be trickery if you pulled a Phil Jones? You know the clip where Phil Jones heads the ball when it's on the ground.
Ask that.
Would that be trickery, or would that just be a natural footballing move?
I don't know.
So, for example, if you're the goalkeeper and I pass you the ball, and then I know there's pressure coming, and I just like dive down and I had to, is that legal or not?
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
I mean, that's not really.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah, it's weird,
like, you can't. I guess it's like just the unsportsmanlike behavior of it, rather than getting out of a tricky situation. If you use it to get out of a tricky situation, I think you're okay. It's the doing it almost like you're showboating is the part that is.
Like if you got on all hands and knees and there's no defenders around you and just headed it back like you would
so actually, so Marco Verratti did something similar, where he went. So the ball was like in his box. He went. There was no pressure on him. Like got on his knees and headed the ball on the ground back to the goalkeeper, and they gave him a yellow card. It was not an indirect free kick, but it was a yellow card during the play as the play was going as part of an unsportsmanlike behavior. But he did that. All right. Here's the tricky one, Joe.
Dun, 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 dun.
Will you get it or not?
Probably not.
Name a situation. And should I give him a hint right from the beginning, or should I just let him try to give him a hint?
No hints, please.
Right. Name a situation in which you can get 2 yellow cards in one game and not be sent off. But he wants that hint now.
No. 2 yellow cards in one game and not be sent off.
That is correct.
And this is somebody who was a player or active in the game in some way, shape, or form?
Correct.
2 yellow cards in the same game.
Comment down below what you think. Pause this video once again. Comment down below what you think is a possibility for this to be an accurate statement. Because you can get 2 yellow cards in the same match and not be sent off.
Both yellow cards happened during the game, like
during the match.
After the first whistle. Oh, you get your second yellow when you're going into penalties.
Going into penalties?
Or like during penalties. So if you're the goalkeeper, let's say in penalties, and you get 1 yellow during the game, and you get a second yellow for time wasting, talking, whatever, you can't send the goalie off because then they wouldn't have a goalie to finish penalties with, because you assign the players right at the start of penalties. You have to turn in.
You're very close. You're very close, but you got it pretty close. Georgie, do you want to explain it to him, or do you want me to explain it?
No, you explain it, because it still didn't make sense to me. He was talking to me in the car, and it's still.
So you can get sent off during the penalty kicks. You can get sent off. You can get a red card. You can get 2 yellows even.
And get sent off.
And get sent off. But yellow cards during regulation play do not carry over into PKs.
So you would need to get 2 yellows in
PKs.
Or a straight red if you want to punch the goalie.
So it happened with Mexico and Honduras where the goalkeeper got a yellow for time wasting during the match. They went into PKs. He came off of his line twice during one of the PKs. I told you they retook it. So the guy takes the PK 3 times, misses it the first 2 times. So because the first time he comes off his line, they give him a warning, no yellow card, but they tell him you can't get off your line. Second time he did it, they have to caution him and give him a yellow card, but he stays in net. So technically he got 2 yellow cards in the same match and was not sent off.
It goes back to the whole, when you go to penalties, it's a draw thing. The game is over once you go to penalties, and that's just what you're using to determine the winner. Yeah. That's weird. But does that count as getting it right?
Yes, I think so. I think you got it pretty close. Your reasoning was not exactly accurate, but yes, it was you got the right one.
The weird thing is though, after what you said, if he did get a red card, the other team pretty much gets a red card.
Yeah, so let's say the goalkeeper gets a red card during the PKs. You can actually sub him off and bring in your backup goalkeeper if you have not used your extra time substitution.
Got it. That makes
sense.
If
you've already used your extra time substitution, which most teams do,
you would be forced
to use a field player. However, you are down 1 man, right? Mm-hmm. The other team taking the penalties also has to take 1 player off the field because the other team is down to 10.
That makes sense. Because you'd have a competitive advantage if you got through, like let's say because you could purposefully have your worst penalty shooter get red carded if you were getting to the last shooter.
Yeah, I didn't look at it that way.
That's
kind of a really crappy way to tell one of your players that he's so bad at PKs that you want to get him purposely
go punch somebody.
But every team will have that. So
you'd want to get like 2 or 3 players off so that you can rotate through the same 7 or 8, right?
Because then if you think about it, it would be an advantage for you. If that rule wasn't in there, every team, what they should do is, if you're in the World Cup final, your worst 6 penalty takers all go get a red card.
Well, you can't. You'd lose the game because you have to have
7.
You have to have a minimum of 7, I believe. Yeah.
But you get the idea. Then you just rotate through those people over and over and over shooting. But the other team can do the same thing. Oh, you're going to remove your 2 worst shooters, so can we.
So I guess from that perspective, it makes sense. From another perspective, you'd also think like that's kind of unfair that we have to take out one of our guys because you got a red card. But I see why Joe's saying it because that makes total sense now.
Yeah. The only way that it would...
That'd be a tactical...
Yeah.
So, well done, Joe. He's 2 for 2. We got to find one.
It's that NAI education, man.
So that's the tricky one. Well done. Fun fact. You guys want to hear a fun fact? Or should we just end the podcast?
We got to do what we're thankful for, too.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're right.
This guy doesn't want to say
sorry. We should have done that at the beginning. We should have done that at the beginning. This is a Thanksgiving episode. Where's the decorations? Where's the turkey? Listen, I'll give you 2 fun facts. One that's related to Thanksgiving as well.
Okay.
First
Happy Thanksgiving to our fans out there. My kids made these this morning. Don't you like Javi and Georgie's work?
So, you want the soccer one or the Thanksgiving one? Fun fact. Soccer one so that we can go into Thanksgiving all together?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, Ronaldinho, some random guy out there on the streets. He first got media attention when he was 13 years old. Do you know why?
Yeah.
Scored
20 goals.
Damn. You guys are good. He scored 23 goals in a 23-0 win against the local youth team.
What a ball hog.
Was he playing against Georgia and DCFC?
You have to be a ball hog to score. Like at some point,
that's what you take away from this.
Think about it. He can score 23 goals. At some point, you got to go up to a teammate and be like, "Look, dude, I'm going to dribble the entire team. You just run next to me, and then when I dribble past the goalkeeper, I'm just going to pass you the ball and you can score the one goal." Some of these kids probably have never scored a goal in their life, and Ronaldinho scored 23 in one match.
That's insane.
That is insane.
Anyway, how old
was? Do you know how old he was?
13.
13 years old.
13. Oh,
13 years old. First got media attention.
Wonder if the kids he was playing against were older or not.
I once scored 8 goals in a Sunday league match. I didn't get my media attention.
What a ball!
I didn't get my media attention. Anyway,
I'm surprised you didn't record it and put it on.
I should have
the internet.
I would have gotten views. Anyway, the other fun fact, not related to soccer, but I am a big Rocky fan. You guys ever watch the Rocky movies?
Yeah.
Yes.
So in Rocky, the first movie, there's a scene because this is super low budget, by the way, super low budget movie. There's a scene in which Paulie, Adrian's brother, gets like really pissed off. It's Thanksgiving. She's cooking a turkey. He gets really pissed off because he's drunk, grabs the turkey and throws it out of the front door because he's pissed off. They had such a low budget in that movie that they had to have people standing outside of the door ready to catch the turkey. So when the turkey got thrown, they could catch it and use it in another scene.
Oh, to keep reshooting the same scene so they didn't have to use 20 turkeys?
Because I think there was another scene with a turkey in it or whatever. Yeah, so they only had one. They only had a budget for one turkey, so they wanted to reuse the one turkey that they had. So when he throws it out, it's not like, oh, get the next turkey. It was people grabbing it when he threw it out.
That is a very inspirational story to me. You know why? Because if that movie and Sylvester Stallone can become whatever he became.
Oh, I know where this is going.
And look at our setup and
we can afford a warehouse.
Money Coach Hobby's put into this. Oh my goodness!
We can afford the warehouse.
The sky's the limit, ladies and gentlemen.
We're about to start a GoFundMe page for our warehouse. All right. So to finish off this podcast, let's go with this is the Thanksgiving episode. What we are thankful for. Georgie, you want to?
Should we hold a turkey while we do it? There we go. Yeah. I get the cross-eyed turkey.
Wow. This is some high quality turkeys we have here, man. Javi, well done. All right, guys. Well, is this going to be up on Thanksgiving, or is this going to be up on time?
I don't know. I'll probably be up to 4 in the
morning.
Well,
I'm not thankful for Coach Javi not knowing when this is.
This will be up by Christmas, so go ahead.
Merry Christmas, everyone. No, honestly, all jokes aside, grateful for a lot of things, man. Family, friends. I'm a huge dog person, so grateful for my dogs. There's just a lot of good things in life, and sometimes we get caught up in the negative moments, negative mindset. But just step away, realize the things you have, the blessings in your life, and everything else will take care of itself. Because life is short, man. You gotta enjoy it. Good people around you, family around you. That's all that really matters. So happy Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much. Save some for us.
Don't eat too much?
Well, they got to save some for us.
During Thanksgiving?
Yeah, man. They got to save some for us. I mean, and that's pretty much it.
It's hard to follow that, man. That's good.
I almost got a tear. I almost had a tear.
Well, you got to hold this turkey.
It'll
give you some.
Give me the turkey. Go on, Joe.
First and foremost, everybody, happy Thanksgiving. My favorite holiday. That's a fun fact about me. Absolutely love Thanksgiving. A few things I'm thankful for. Obviously, my family. Number one, for putting up with me, motivating me, inspiring me, making these little things. Great job, Sloan and Cash. They look great. My friends, very fortunate to have a great group of friends, some that I've known for a very long time since I was really little, some from college. These two knuckleheads that, for some reason, have allowed me on this podcast, so thank you two for that.
Not for long. We're still waiting for that one comment that tells us Joe out.
Maybe this is the week. I want to say thank you to my wife, Allie. Always supports me in really anything I want to do. Thank you to the girls I coach and the team I lead at work as well. Very much appreciative for all of your hard work. All of you make me a better person every day.
And all of your comments and views.
Yeah, there you go. All the comments and views as well. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy it. I think what Georgie said is spot on. The world moves fast. Life moves fast. Do things you enjoy. Do them with people you enjoy. And, the rest will take care of itself.
Very well done. Very well done. Another tear almost came out the other eye, Joe, on that one. So,
you want two turkeys to take us home?
I'll take 2 turkeys to take us home. No, I also want to just obviously shout out to the family. I'm very excited because we're going to spend Thanksgiving with my parents, and my kids are going to spend time with their grandparents and their cousin. And I'm also thankful for my baby mama / wifey now. Who again has been just like Joe said, has been very supportive of our ventures here. And then to Georgie's, kind of what Georgie said, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world. There's always a lot of things that I think we sometimes forget that our struggles are not as great as some of the struggles that some of the people out there in the world are facing. So just to be able to do what we do on a daily basis, and have a passion for it, which is great. I feel like I'm a very creative person, so just being able to have that creativity and being able to show that every day with the things that I do at work, with the podcast and the YouTube stuff, makes me feel very, very grateful. I'll leave it with a quote, which is one of my favorite quotes from the one and only Zinedine Zidane, who said, that he once cried because he had no shoes to play football, and then he saw a man with no feet, and he realized just how lucky he was. So I think that's how I'm going to end it, with just saying that I'm very grateful. I like to try and focus on all the positive things that I have in my life, and hopefully we can continue doing this every single year. Hopefully we'll be back here next year talking about the things that we're thankful for, adding to the list that we already have, and doing this again. Cool.
See y'all soon.
See you guys in the next one. Peace out.
To the